I'm gonna do my usual thing and go ahead and start off this video with a disclaimer. This advice, this concept, this discussion does not apply to every single table, and nothing I ever say ever does apply to every single table. And I think generally, for the most part, it's pretty solid advice. But because of the general topic and the title of this video, I know that I'm probably going to make some people mad, and that's okay. Pretty much always, if you try to express an opinion on the internet, you've made someone mad. But still, nonetheless, I did want to put that disclaimer out there. But with that being said, I want to talk about the fact that min-maxing can actually make your character feel less powerful. So let's talk about that. Now, what do I mean when I say it makes your character feel less powerful? How can you min-maxing your numbers to be the best possibly make your character feel less powerful than an unoptimized character? After all, it's hard to argue. A fighter that can deal 3d10 a round plus its modifiers is just generally going to do better than somebody who only deals, I don't know, a few d6 and doesn't have a maxed out modifier. A wizard with the absolutely best spells is going to outdamage a wizard with suboptimal spells. There's no getting around the fact that min-maxing does, mechanically, make your character more powerful. But that being said, it can go a long way to making your character feel less powerful, and there's a very specific reason that I'm saying that. And what is that reason? Well, it just gives your DM less to work with, less flexibility, less room. They have to be on top of making sure that they have your character handled. And that can really go a long way to making it feel like you have less options and are not as powerful as you truly are. Now, I'm not just speaking out my butt here. I do have an example for this. In the first campaign I ever ran, we had quite a few players, and some of the players really liked min-maxing. And let me make it 100% clear, I am not downplaying or putting down anybody who likes to min-max. I personally have min-maxed quite a few times. I find it very fun. You're not wrong for trying to build a powerful character. At the end of the day, D&D is a role-playing and a war game. War game is a part of that, and combat is a very core part of the mechanics. Knowing combat and doing it right isn't wrong. Nobody should put you down for that, so long as you're not putting other people down for it. However, when you do min-max, it can really tie the DM's hands. In that first campaign that I ran, those players who really liked to min-max were very powerful, and because it was the first campaign I ever ran, I gave them some magic items that were a little too much. This caused me to have to be really restrictive in what they wanted to do. When they wanted to try and get creative with their spells, I usually had to put some pretty fast and harsh rules to stop them from doing that. Something I thought was really cool and that I would love for them to do, but if they did it, it would just be too much. It would make them far too powerful and the other players at the table would feel useless. It's all about balance. You can't just always tell them no because it'll be effective. You want your players to be effective, but at the exact same time, you want all the players at the table to feel capable, and if a few of them are outshining all the rest all the time, it's no longer fun for them. However, meanwhile, I also had a fighter. And the fighter was not super well versed in the rules. She wasn't min-maxed, she didn't have the best stats, she was good, don't get me wrong, character-wise, but the player didn't have quite a grasp of combat that the others did. Because of this, there were quite a few times where she would try to break the rules of combat. She'd try to do something unique or interesting or creative rather than just the number crunching way that you should do it. And because she was already a suboptimal character, I had the flexibility to allow her to, because it didn't make everybody else at the table feel like they were weaker, it just made her character feel more capable. And really, at the end of the day, the core of this video that I'm trying to get at is that if you min-max your character, you're going to be more powerful. But it prevents the DM from allowing you to be super creative so that you don't outshine everybody else at the table. When you're not as strong as a character, when you're not 100% all the time, 100% consistent with your damage and killing everything, when you want to do something creative or fun, it's a lot easier for the DM to allow that. And again, this is not a universal constant. This isn't every single game, but it has been a 100% universal constant in every game that I've played in. And you know, look, if you actually think about it, it makes a lot of sense. A DM's job is to keep balance at the table, to keep the story moving forward and keep the players having fun. And if you're going to keep the players having fun, they all have to feel like they're effective. They don't have to feel effective in the same way, but they do have to feel capable. And if one player at the table is trying to min-max so specifically to be better than everybody else, that's fine. It is fine to try and make your character really good at a specific thing. If there's a fighter at the table, they're probably going to be the best at combat for the most part. Eventually magic casters may overtake them, but even then if they're min-maxing, they'll continue to be extremely effective. You shouldn't take that away from them. But say that they're so specifically good at combat that when another player tries to do something creative, like use a spell in a creative way, in order to be able to assist with that, you let them. But when the fighter wants to do the same thing so they can be just as effective as, say, the spellcasters in utility, that's when you start to give pause. It's not necessarily the easiest thing when somebody is so specifically min-maxed to be the best at everything that you give them the flexibility to be as creative as everybody else. We want people to be creative, absolutely. We want them to be creative within the bounds of the characters that you've created. This is a team-based game. Every player in a team should have their place. If one person can do everything, what's the point in having a team? At that point, why even play D&D? After all, the Justice League is amazing, yes, but Superman can do everything. That's why a lot of people consider him a boring character. Did they fix that and start to work more on it in the later years? Yeah, absolutely. In modern times, Superman is powerful, don't get me wrong, but he's a part of the group. They all need each other. In the past, Superman was just the best and everybody else was just there. They were there to act as a power test how powerful Superman was. That's not exciting. It wasn't fun, and Superman, rightfully, got blamed for being a boring character. It's the same with D&D characters. So when you create an optimized character, that's great, awesome, wonderful, but understand that you're optimized in that field. Don't try and overstep your bounds. And if you want to be able to be creative in all sorts of other fields, don't make yourself the absolute best. In one of the campaigns I played an artificer who was pretty optimized for combat. I specifically went out of my way to try and give some backstory reasons of why he wouldn't always use everything he had, but he was very good at combat. And so when the other players at the table tried to do creative things, the DM would often let them. When I asked to do creative things, he would give a little bit of pause. He worked with me, but the creative plans I had were never as effective as everybody else's. Was I offended by that? No, because at the end of the day, I could just pull out my weapon and fire, and I would do probably more damage than everybody else there. And I did, many times, because that's what I was good at. It's not fun to have somebody constantly take the spotlight. So if you want to be able to be creative and do lots of things, it can sometimes be optimal to not build your character optimally. I know it sounds weird, but it does give your DM a lot of ability and a lot of creativity to do what you want to do. Now again, I will emphasize, is this for every table? No, 100% no. That's just not the fact of the matter. Not everybody will operate this way. But every table I've been in, this has been a universal factor, and I'm willing to bet it's more common than you think, even if the DM is only doing this subconsciously. So work with your DM and talk about that, and consider the fact that if you want to min-max, that's awesome. That is part of the game, and I enjoy doing it too, but lean into your min-maxing. Don't try and step on everybody else's toes. If you want to be able to step outside that to experience some other things, well at that point, maybe you should consider building suboptimal. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Go out into the world, make it your own. Don't forget to have a great day, and never forget the player role. Thank you. Come again.